you. I could see how he became more confident after talking to you every time. You are always there when he needs. I think it's really important to know or be told from someone professional like you.
Which was a completely new experience for us. I think we were skeptical. We dove into some of the content. We realized how good it was and the quality of it. The way that you kind of worked with him and you set expectations for him. I was like, hey, these are the things I'm expecting from you. And that was a big part of why we enjoyed the program as well.
The program has made me like a little eagerness to go out and do something and not just like wait for the team practice and do things on my own.
As his dad, I can tell him till I'm blue in the face that this needs to be done. And sometimes it doesn't resonate coming from the dad. Sometimes it needs to come from a pro ball player.
Through your program, I just realized like how much more I could learn. I could just feel the improvement over the course like of 4 or 5 months, like you said. With you being able to supply me with this type of structure, I'm able to just learn for myself and learn how to improve by myself, which makes me feel a lot better as well as a lot more accomplished in the end.
I definitely recommend joining it. It's awesome. The community's great. Having you there to support you is incredible, and overall love the program.
You get the full structure. You get your lifting, you get your arm velocity, you get your mechanics, you get your hitting, and the hands-on approach from you.
Infield velo was 68 or something like that. It was not good. My 60-yard dash was 7.7, which is not good. And I was not very mobile. I wasn't very strong. I mean, I'm a big kid, but a lot of it was just like from my size. My infield velo now is 80, and my 60-yard dash is 70.
It's insane. What was the root cause for all that?
I mean, it was just staying consistent with the program. I think just I had to really stay on, like focus on the path that I was trying to get. You know what I'm saying? I was trying to become elite. I was trying to get better. I know the stats. At the time, I was like, oh yeah, that's not that bad. But going back and looking, that's not where I should be to play at the next level. Staying consistent with the program really helped me through that time.
I feel like now I'm really dialed into what I'm doing. So when I do it, it's just like this before, like you talked about earlier, like it's just coming in naturally.
That felt good. I mean, it gave me my confidence shot up. I think you should join in. You do a really good job of replying back to messages, and you're really fast to help out other people with like coaching and their swings. You're a pretty good coach.
Hitting improved, lifting improved, velocity went up, speed went up, everything in general went up. Before joining, I tracked my 60 time and I was running at 8.22, and then after a while I did a showcase and then I ran a 7.08.
What do you think leading cause for that? That's crazy jump.
Probably mobility and probably the exercises that you have in your academy that allow for growth in those little tiny muscles that people forget about.
I could tell I was hitting the ball a little bit harder, and then it got better and better and better, and then my speed picked up with the sprinting training and all that, and I was just getting a lot better. But before that, it was not super good. I've definitely picked up on my hitting velo. Before I joined the program, my velo was 72 off the bat, and at this showcase, I hit 80.
That's insane, dude.
No, so when I first saw your program, you were talking about how to get to college and how to get D1 and get recruited and all this, and that had me super interested because I'm trying to go D1 and everything, try to get a scholarship and all this, and your program definitely talks about it and helps you walk through it and get you started. Honestly, I would say like the program definitely helped me a lot. Helped me work through some things, get my visualization for games and all that, just get me prepared.
Obviously, like my program's remote. Like, have you had any trouble by doing the work that I provide you?
Not at all. It's right in front of you. So it's super easy to get. Search it up, find it, and start working.
Welcome Evan Mendoza to the program.
Cardinals third baseman Evan Mendoza.
First giving it a look, finds the railing and he tumbles over, but he made the catch. Unbelievable, Evan Mendoza.
Gran jugada en Evan Mendoza, dos joyas defensivas.
Evan Mendoza makes a great
rounded up the middle. Mendoza throws out the shortstop. Mendoza field spins.
Mendoza throw to first in time. Wow, what a play by Evan Mendoza.
Mendoza to second for one. Oh my word, you've got to be kidding.
Evan Mendoza.
For Mendoza.
Mendoza lifts one to left.
An inning.
Mendoza, that one's sailing back there, and it's gone.
Now, those are some of the plays and the insights of playing baseball at the highest level, not just posting about it. Now, let's flip the script. Here's what my students and families have to say about working with me.
Just share his stories of the kids asking him, what did you do? And his one answer was one word. Evan.
It's an overall great program to improve your metrics, mental approach, your velocity, and your outreaching strategies. Because there's a ton of players I know that are way better than me that had zero offers because they don't know how to reach out to coaches.
Pretty much every possible number when I've gone up. I was high 70s and now I'm aiming for mid to high 80s and hitting the same thing. I was high 80s off machine and now I'm able to put some balls out in the mid 90s.
JT's motivation to want to do it at home, be proactive in his baseball career, and we are able to do these things for him, and it's self-motivated and he's taken that action. As a parent, you want to be able to say yes to something like that.
It's been making me feel much more confident. Like now going into the season, I feel I have all the ability I need and I can just play and trust that all the work I did will pay off.
Started working out, I was about 120, 115, about 160 now. I trusted it.
and it worked. If you want to go get it, it's not going to come to you.
My EV was about 75 and my body weight was around 155, around that. Since I joined that, I'm up to almost 180 now, and I'm hitting 80s, around mid 80s.
How much more kind of committed he was and how much more confident he became in his own progress, instead of questioning himself about, am I doing the right thing or is this the right thing? So you could kind of see the stress level decrease a little bit, and then that energy could be focused on really all of the program aspects, right? Or his workouts.
Do that. If you could get on and do what you said day in, day out, it's amazing. Like a game changer.
Through your program, I just realized like how much more I could learn. I could just feel the improvement over the
We getting started, everyone. Hope everyone's having a great day today. Okay, we're gonna stop the music because I don't want to get cut off. But hope everyone's having a great day today. We're gonna kick right into it. My son works hard, but he's not getting any looks. And why is that? So let's talk about the recruiting process. And if you're not getting any looks, in the recruiting process, there's probably many different areas that you are potentially going very, very wrong. So before we get started, my name is Evan Mendoza, and I played 7 years of professional baseball between the St. Louis Cardinals and the San Diego Padres. And ultimately, I want to be able to give you guys the best guidance possible, so that's why I do these live. So what's up, Emerson? We got Willie back in action. Let's go. Hope everyone's having a great day. This is day, I almost forgot. Today is day 7 of going live, 50 straight days, excluding Sundays, but let's get into it. So the question was, my son is working hard, but he's not getting any looks. So if you're falling into this category, there's probably a couple of reasons why you're not getting any looks, or maybe you or your son aren't getting those looks. So first off, we have to really think about what is happening. And just to keep this clean, I'm gonna go ahead and delete this off. There we go. Okay, cool. So we have to think about why we're not getting any looks, right? If we think about, and this is something I've drawn before in the past as well, if we think about really at the very top, impressions, right? And this is actually a metric that we use inside the academy on like more social media side of things, because impressions is something that's actually inside like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Impressions are how many times people see with their eyes basically your content, right? So we have to understand at the very top, what we're really going for are impressions of your highlight video of how you're playing the game of baseball. And that way you can get evaluated, right? And this is, ideally the question is, my son's working hard, but he's not getting any looks. You're saying that he's not getting any impressions. He's not getting the eyeballs on him, right? So the next step is really to get evaluated. And this is typically done by a highlight video or like a camp or a showcase, right? After getting evaluated, this is when we can get some type of level of interest. After we get that interest, we could possibly get a visit, and the coach will offer us an opportunity to come out to that specific university. And then that way we can get offers. And then this is D1 because not many people get all the way to the bottom. But hope everyone's having a great day today. That's a great question to kick things off, guys. Like I said, my name is Evan Mendoza. I played 7 years of professional baseball between the St. Louis Cardinals and San Diego Padres. Now I help high school baseball players play in college. So if you or your son are trying to land a college scholarship, we would love to help. So if you have any baseball related questions, feel free to drop them down below in the chat. I'm going to hit some questions that we're compiling up because we are on Facebook, we are live on YouTube, and we are live on Instagram as well. So how do we tell if our travel program is helping or hurting in the recruiting process? So really good question, because travel baseball is interesting to say the least. There's daddy ball, right? And nobody likes daddy ball by any means. Daddy ball, if you have never heard of that term before, it basically is, the sons of the coaches will always play, and that is daddy ball, right? Pretty straightforward. But with the component of understanding that daddy ball is not going to help. So that's the area that I will say is like really, really important to be aware of, right? We want to stay away from daddy ball, but what kind of travel ball is helping, what kind of travel ball is hurting. So let's talk about it, because travel ball can be very, very helpful, but I think it's very helpful in a very secluded time frame. So I think, in my opinion, travel ball is great in between junior and senior year. Like, this is the prime time, right? That is prime time to play travel ball. If you're not in between your junior and senior year, and we're talking about the summertime, right? If we're not in that in between stage, in my opinion, travel ball can be done locally. And a lot of you guys probably just like don't want to hear that, but it's the truth, right? You can do travel ball locally, and that is totally okay, because you're getting some game reps in. And really, travel ball at those early stages, you don't have to be traveling by plane to play baseball. I will say that again, because some of you guys love to travel and maybe are using it as an opportunity to do like family vacations and such. But travel ball does not need to be going on planes at such a young age. It's just unnecessary. Now, did I get on planes before when I was young? Yes. Did I get recruited from those camps and showcases and tournaments? No. It did expose me to a higher level of, of baseball, which is always good. No one's going to ever complain about that. But the one thing I will say is, like, if you're doing it just to impress your friends or, things like that, that is not going to help, at the end of the day, right? Like, we need to ensure that we have the understanding of why we're going to a specific tournament or a camp or a showcase before we actually do it. So in all reality, before really sophomore year, go local and get those reps in, right? Because that's what's going to help as far as your game development. While you're local and all the time that you're saving by not having to travel, this is where you need to be focusing on your development. And I'm going to probably spell that wrong. So you need to be focusing on your development and what if you guys are returning from previous days. What I mean by development, there's so many different areas. There's physical, there's mental, there's skill, there's nutrition, there's leadership. There's so many different areas that I think a lot of people just kind of like combine it into one and think, oh, I'm going to hitting lessons, I'm developing. It's like, no, you're not, because that's not focusing on the physical development, getting after in the gym. Going to hitting lessons does not focus on your mental abilities and making sure that we use frameworks to overcome struggles. It's not focusing on your nutrition. It's not focusing on leadership. You're literally only focusing on one piece of the puzzle. And that's why I get so frustrated with people that are doing lessons in high school, because there's so many other hours of the day, and 1 hour a week is not going to move the needle as far as you guys think it will. So if you have any baseball-related questions, like I said, if you want to drop them down below in the chat, you definitely can. And then that way I will be able to answer them. And most importantly, give you more guided answers rather than just give you bland answers, right? I don't want to be here on this live telling you very vanilla answers, but that also comes to the component of like, you have to give me some detail. You have to give me some juice to the question for me to be able to answer it properly. What metrics actually matter for my son's position? So let's talk about metrics because it is important, right? It is also important to understand the difference between metrics and stats, right? Because stats are like batting average, ERA, whip technically. I don't know how many high school parents, mostly parents, are calculating whip and things like that, or OPS, or on-base percentage. All these things, strikeout percentage. I hate that one, guys, because at the high school level, it doesn't really matter if your son doesn't strike out. So these are stats, not really important. What's more important is your metrics, because this is where like your son is right there, and ideally he wants to be like, let's just say 95 and 88. Like your son wants to be there, for example, of whatever that metric is. Let's just say it's exit velocity, right? You want to make sure that you're falling within a range, and without knowing these metrics, how do we know if we're good or how we would stack up against college level of players, right? So these are the things that I really would think are important to understand when you're going about the college recruiting process. And some of it doesn't take a lot of time. Like, it really doesn't take a lot of time. I want you guys to understand you absolutely can get your metrics by yourself, right? I don't want you guys to think that you have to go to a showcase to get your metrics, because you don't. You simply do not need your metrics at a showcase or a camp. You can do it on your own. If you have a pocket radar, if you have these resources, that will definitely help. But you do not need to spend thousands of dollars just to get a 60 time, your arm velo, and your exit velocity. So if you're on Instagram right now, if you're in the chat right now, guys, let me know who you are. Let me know if you're a player, if you're a parent. This is going to help me guide you guys to what kind of content you guys need on this live. Today is day 7 of 50. We're going to be doing this live every single day for 50 straight days, excluding Sundays at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So if you guys have a baseball specific question, feel free to ask. Willie, what would be the best platform to post on? So this is, again, something that I've kind of drawn out a little bit in previous ones. Maybe you weren't in there, but we have to think about basically really the pool size. I'm going to use a pool example this time. So this is a swimming pool, right? That's a swimming pool. Do we want to put all of our effort and our focus into posting, right? This is posting. Do we want to post in that small, tiny little pool? And then inside that pool, maybe there's, 2 coaches, right? And they're like 2 coaches, and I'm just going to post right there for those 2 coaches. No, because those 2 coaches, let's just say, are LSU and Tennessee, and it's going to be very difficult to play at those universities. So why would we want to post in a small pond or a small pool where basically we're not going to get the outputs we're looking for? So in comparison, because I always like to showcase things in radical extremes. So basically now we have, on the other hand, this massive pool, right? There's so many more. Okay, we're just going to use dots. All these dots are people and coaches, right? There's so many more coaches in this pool, right? So why wouldn't we want to post here, again, where there's more people? Right. So when we're thinking about posting on social media, and especially in the rule of thumb of we're using social media as a vehicle to help get recruited. We're not using social media to become the next Jake Paul, right? So we need to be posting content, ideally on these platforms that coaches live on, which is not TikTok, right? It's not TikTok. Ideally, yes, X, Instagram are going to be my 2 favorite. A lot of people will sell you on the fact that inside this pool, there's this huge gap right here. And basically, this is a great networking vehicle between coaches and players. And we're going to give you this database. And this huge thing that people love to say is massive and it's the biggest platform. It's NCSA. And some people will think that because they have access to this Facebook, right? Because NCSA is Facebook at the end of the day. Facebook, right? People will think because it's NCSA, because they're the biggest database, people will think like, oh, well, it's just going to be the best place and NCSA is this big pool. Wrong. NCSA is this area, it is a database, but still these college coaches, the best way to explain it, let's say the college coaches are blue, right? Blue are the coaches that you are actually interested in and you have the ability to potentially play at that university. All right, so these are like the possible schools you could land a college commitment to, right? So what if these college coaches just simply don't use NCSA? So are they really the biggest database, or are they just the biggest platform for recruiting? Or are they saying that with the hopes that one of these coaches is a good fit for you and you're a good fit for them? So that's where I think it's really important to make sure that you don't have that misunderstanding of how these recruiting services work and how basically these databases work. But to answer your question, Willie, best platforms to be posting on are Instagram and X. YouTube's a great database for you, and maybe I misunderstood or I miscommunicated that, but a database for you as far as a library of basically a library of your hitting, your highlights, your everything, right? So these are the things that I'd much rather you self-create and basically make sure that you have a library of those more than anything. On the topic of social media, is social media helping my son or is it just a distraction? So I will say probably 9.9 times out of 10, social media is a distraction, right? So the reason I say that is because, like, you guys, I think we've all kind of understood what brain rotting is, and that's the exact reason why I'm doing these lives also, by the way, guys. Like, brain rotting are these like 3-second clips that just, like, you get this like dopamine hit in a weird way. Like, you feel good about watching a dog video, and then you scroll and then you watch another dog video, and then you scroll and then you see something baseball related. Do these 3 steps if you want to go D1, right? And you scroll and you scroll and you see this other camp, you see this ad, you see this, you see that, and you're just scrolling and your brain rotting, really, because these 3-second pieces of content, really the algorithm of how social media works is they want to keep you on the platform as long as humanly possible. So if you think about that regard, you want to make sure that you're not doing that, because if you have big dreams and goals in the world and you want to play baseball at the next level and play college ball, you can't be brain rotting, right? And if anything, you need to be educated. And that's why I do these lives, is because obviously these lives are not brain rotting, and that's why there's not as many people in here as some of our most popular videos, because some of our most popular videos are shorter videos. Yes, they like give you some level of value, but nobody that's done anything great has come from like watching a 3-second clip and then all of a sudden their life has changed. There needs to be some level of specific implementation, and that's, I think, where a lot of people will go wrong, is they watch the 3 steps to go D1, they do step 1, they do step 2, they do step 3, and then they still wonder why they're not getting the results. So ultimately, social media, yes, it's brain rotting a lot of the time, unless you find channels, and I'm going to toot my own horn as far as my academy, because that's where, like, I want to make sure that I'm giving you guys the best value, and that's why I'm doing this. I'm on live giving you guys those questions to all your, or giving you guys the answers to all your questions. Any tips on lowering screen time? I love the conversation, by the way, about social media. It's one of my favorite conversations. So as far as lowering screen time, there are a couple of areas that I do want to kind of hit on, because these are things that have worked for me. Doesn't necessarily mean that are going to work for you. One of the most challenging things on my phone that I've implemented before to lower screen time, there's a way to do it inside settings. And basically inside settings, go black and white. It is the worst thing ever. So by the way, you go to like general, you go to accessibility, you go to screen filters, and then basically from screen filters, you can use a filter that's called black and white. It makes everything on your screen black and white. And we think about colors, right? It's really weird. It's more brain stuff than anything. But if you think about like a casino, there's bells, whistles, there's flashing lights, there's everything, right? With all those colors, with all those notifications in a way, right? Our brain like wants more, wants more, wants more. And if you turn your phone on a black and white, watch how frustrated you are using your phone. That is an area that I think is just really interesting, because like if we're all on black and white phones, you're not gonna get that same level of like joy by using your phone. And that's something that I think it's kind of funny in some regards, right? And I've done this for like a week, and I did not use my phone as much. I was frustrated while using my phone, but watch how that might interact with your screen time. By the way, I love how Apple implements like screen time data, because it makes us aware of, you know, these metrics. Without those metrics, there's no way to gauge screen time. It's a concept that I love teaching inside my academy. What gets measured gets improved. And if we never are measuring anything, it's going to be very hard to improve those things, Willie. So great topic of lowering screen time. So going black and white is one. I zero out. I basically eliminate all notifications. All of them, basically, all of them. I eliminate almost all notifications on my phone to lower my screen time. And the reason for that is because I hate when my phone buzzes. I quite literally hate it. I think my brain is also associated with, sometimes like I'm not looking at my phone for a couple of minutes, maybe I'm cooking dinner or like doing the dishes and I'm doing something with my hands, and I feel like my phone buzzes. There's this, I don't know if you guys have felt that as well, but like I feel like my phone buzzes, And I don't like that. So I try to eliminate all notifications because ideally when my phone buzzes, I want it to be important. I don't want it to be a promotional email from Wayfair. I just got, I think, these things from Wayfair, the cabinets, whatever. And I got so many emails for more furniture, and I'm like, no, I don't want it. I don't need it. But if you are on the Mendy Minute, which is our email newsletter, do not silence those. Those are very, very valuable emails. It also gives you understanding on like when we go live and do these things. So make sure to check us out on our email. If you go to MendozBaseballAcademy.com, scroll all the way at the bottom, there's going to be a way for you to opt into our email newsletter if that's something that you guys are interested in. But yeah, I like to eliminate all notifications because like I don't want my phone to be buzzing. It's just something that I don't enjoy doing. Now, one thing that also helps me, and I forgot to actually do it before this live, maybe I didn't forget to do it, is I love to turn on, focus mode. I just went ahead and did that. I don't know if you saw it at the top of the screen right there, but I like focus or like do not disturb because this really makes me forget that I have a phone, and that's a good thing. Like I think in today's society, forgetting that you have a phone means that you're doing something out there in the life that is worth doing. And yeah, we're just so distracted on our phones nowadays. It's hard to get that extra work in. But if you're a baseball player and you have those dreams and goals to be able to play college baseball, like you have to get away from your phone a little bit, right? It's just part of the aspect of, wanting to achieve something worthwhile doing. It's going to require things that people don't want to do today. And you're going to be able to do the things that other people will want to do tomorrow. And I'm living proof of that, guys. When I was in high school, there would be plenty of my teammates that, would have fun. They would party. They would do this. They would do that. But there were so many players that like didn't really prioritize their development in high school. And looking back, like not all of them got the opportunity to play in college. Not all of them got drafted and played professional baseball. Not all of them made it past single A. Not all of them made it past double A. I was in my high school graduation class for baseball. By the way, like I was probably like the third best player on my team in high school. Like I was not the best. Like I think a lot of high school baseball programs have like one very good player that is really solid. I was not that one really, really good player. Like especially like with where I was coming into the program at, I was not the best. There were other players that were hitting home runs left and right during batting practice. I was not that player. There was also players on my team that had like a 6.660 and I had like a 7.460, right? There were guys throwing 90 plus. I was throwing like 87, 88, right? So like I was always like toe to toe with those guys, but I was definitely not the best. And our high school graduation class had like 6 guys get drafted and played some level of professional baseball. And it's funny because like I always prioritized my development, and throughout that time of getting, putting in the extra work and like sacrificing, that's where I found myself. I never played in the big leagues, but I played as high as AAA, and I was with big league camp as far as spring training. So I was playing against and alongside guys like Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis, Juan Soto. Just saw the Bo Bichette. Bo Bichette was actually on our travel ball team way back in the day. He was really gifted as a young player. I think he was a freshman on like a varsity or on a senior FTB team, which was just insane. But been able to like rub shoulders with those guys at the highest level, right? But out of that high school team, like I was the one that basically made it the furthest. And that's not to like toot my own horn, but it's really to emphasize the fact that I did the work that most people weren't willing to do. So I was able to basically do things and say that I did things and actually did them that most players just wish that they could. Like I think you can assume, right, that a lot of high school baseball players would want to play alongside Yachty or have Yachty follow you on Instagram, right? By the way, this is my academy page. If you go over to my personal page, you can verify that data. But like, I think a lot of people think they would just like to be close in association with those types of people, right? Let alone compete next to them. And I think when you compete next to them, you really see a side that the media doesn't, because you see like their personality, you see how helpful they are. For example, one guy that just I feel like is always flying under the radar, and it's just like his professionalism, the way he goes about it, is Paul Goldschmidt. So I'll never forget in spring training that I was new to playing first base, and there was a pickoff by a lefty, and we got the base runner out, or picked off. We didn't get him out, but we got him picked off, and he started stealing to go to second. He was going on the first move of a lefty. So I kind of sat back. I received the ball. I didn't really create a great throwing lane, and I'll never forget. He was in the first base dugout, so he was relatively close on the spring training fields, and he comes over and he's like, hey, this is what you need to do. This is how you need to attack the ball coming from the pitcher. It helps you create that lane, so that way you're not throwing behind the runner and you don't have a throwing lane. And he basically was just so quick, and this was all in between like a scrimmage to get at-bats for some of the guys at the highest level. But he was just so quick to help, and Goldie's like a guy that's fairly quiet, but definitely has that leadership presence out there on the field. And in the clubhouse and in the dugout as well, as far as doing the little things right. I'll never forget, he also had like a seminar, no joke, a seminar. It's why I'm also so passionate about, teaching, because I got to see guys like him really go about it. And he was just so passionate about teaching others and the younger generation of, his teammates to do the right things. And that will equate to winning ball games. And he basically, like I said, he had a whole seminar about how to slide into home plate, right? If there's ever the opportunity where you need to slide into home, how do you do that? And for like 20 minutes, we were talking about how to slide into home. So if we think about like, okay, you guys are going to hitting lessons once a week. Cool. You guys are talking about hitting baseballs in a cage, and typically your hitting coach will say, good job after you hit a line drive. Cool. That's like way up here, right? That's if there's an iceberg, right? And this is the water level. That's what you guys are learning right now by going to hitting lessons once a week, right? There's so much more to the game that you didn't even realize people actually focus on and people will have conversations on. But these are the things that help teams win ball games. You have to have that leadership to be able to teach others and to be able to educate others on how to do those things. So with all those really like life experiences, I want to make sure that you guys have the same opportunities to learn about the game of baseball, right? And that's why I have my academy for anyone that's joining in. I help high school baseball players. Really our cutoff is 8th grade and up, but we help high school baseball players play in college with the triple play, which is the physical, the mental, and the recruiting. So if that's something that interests you guys, you can always click the link in my bio. Make sure to watch that full video that's there. There's a video there for a reason. It's basically a slide deck that you guys will be able to walk through your journey basically, and if it's something that speaks to you, go ahead and schedule out a Zoom call. We do require, basically mom, dad, and player to be on that call so we can have a clear picture of if we can even help. But yeah, guys, with that Goldie example, like very, very, he flies under the radar all the time, and I think he might have just signed a deal with a team. I can't remember. What did your daily? But yeah, don't need to keep going down the rabbit hole of Goldie and how great of a player he is. I think a lot of people know how great of a player he is, especially his time in Arizona. He was a killer. But yeah, let's talk about it. Willie. Also, I appreciate all the questions that you asked, dude. It's really helpful. What did your daily routine look like in high school? What time were you going to bed and waking up? So great question. This is again, not to toot my own horn, but I was doing a lot. So I'm not really a morning person. I'm just going to say that. I tried waking up early before high school. I think it was like 3 times to go to the local YMCA, and I didn't continue that. I was just like, I don't like this. And I think that's an important lesson to you guys listening as well, because you don't have to be an early morning person to be successful in baseball. Like, I want to make sure that you guys understand this very clearly. There are more than one path or paths, right, to baseball at the higher level, right? Like, I think a lot of people think like this is the only box that you have to be in to be able to play professional baseball. No, guys, no. There's the path over here. There's the path over here. Sometimes the path is going to look like this and it doesn't look pretty, but then you get over here because of the hard work, because of the consistency, because of your discipline, right? So don't fall into the trap that you have to stay in this box of one way of doing things. You don't have to wake up early in the morning, but you definitely do have to prioritize putting in that work. So let's talk about my high school routine. as a high school baseball player. So, all right, so my high school baseball routine was like this. So it was pretty extensive. Again, I was not a early morning type of person. I didn't like waking up early in the morning, but I still found time to get that work in. So let's just call it 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. That is class, right? That's where typically in between classes, you know, like in between here, that's when I would get some homework done. In between here, I would get some homework done. Maybe during lunch, I would do, you know, some homework here as well, right? So I was really productive throughout my day to make sure I was getting homework done that was just recently assigned to me. So that way when I have, which I'll explain here in a second, when I get home, I have more time to do the work that I want. Typically right after, I'm just going to talk about like a typical fall day, getting ready for the season, because that's kind of like where a lot of you guys are at. We're more in the winter time right now, but this is where we would typically have a team lift, right? And that's probably an hour to an hour and a half. That was at our high school gym. That was done with probably 40 people in our high school gym. Now, after that, I would always ask the head coach for the keys to the batting cage, and that was only by ask, right? We didn't have them permanently unlocked, right? We wanted to make sure that no one was getting in and trespassing, but I would ask for the keys, and what I would do is probably for another hour and a half. By the way, that now we're looking at 3 p.m. and then maybe like for 5 p.m. I would typically tell my mom like, hey, can you pick me up around like 5:30, right? And that the reason for that is if I was getting out at 3 o'clock, I had plenty of time. I had ample time to be able to get some extra work in. And this is actually where I did like my throwing program by myself, by the way, guys, by myself. I was doing it in a batting cage. I was playing long toss with myself, doing underweight, overweight, and just basically a throwing program, because I knew that if I was going to use the excuse that I can't throw with someone, I'm probably not in the right mindset to be able to play college baseball. I would also be able to hit by myself off of, we had a machine, an automatic machine. We also had, you know, tees and stuff like that. Occasionally there might be another teammate that came and hit with me, and that way we could flip to each other. But ideally, this is that extra maybe 90 minutes of work that I would do. Now, once I got home, this is the area that a lot of my students, if any of my students have joined into the live right now, I think I might have saw Sam and Andres is that. This is where I would do my sprint program right once I got home. So we would drive home right here. So my sprint work would be 15 to 20 minutes. That's it, 15, 20 minutes. But the emphasis that I really want to share with you guys is I did it once I got home. I didn't wait around for 2 hours. I didn't scroll on my phone. I didn't get into my homework yet. I didn't get into I just did it right away to mentally or psychology get it over with, right? Because I know that it was going to be super valuable to be able to do that sprint work and do that extra work. But this is the area where it doesn't take a lot of time. Yes, it's easier to go shower and, you know, lay down and, you know, you've been on your feet all day, you had a long day, eat this, that, and the other. No, I got my sprint work right once I got done, right once I got home, I got it done, so that way I got it over with. So typically around like 6 p.m., that's when like I'm done, right? I'm done with everything. And for the most part, I would try getting as much homework as I can right here until maybe like 9 o'clock, right? The emphasis of like probably like eating dinner right here as well, I should probably focus on. So I would typically do dinner, I believe, before going to the gym for a second time. So this is, again, some extra gym work where I don't want to say it was until 9, 10 o'clock, but maybe it was closer to, let me change this up. Maybe it was closer to like 7. We would have dinner, and then from like 7:30 to like 9, I would go to the gym again. And that was just a YMCA. And I would get that extra physical development in. So this is the area that I was doing that extra work in to get bigger, stronger, faster. This is that extra work that I was doing to focus on my skill work, because that's where we need to focus about the umbrella of player development. Obviously, player development has the physical, bigger, stronger, faster. Skill work, catch the ball, throw the ball, hit the ball. Mental development is under the player development umbrella. Nutritional development, right? Diet and hydration And then also like the leadership development, making sure that we're growing into a leader with that confidence. So there's so many different areas of player development, but I was really focusing on the skill and getting that extra work in, because I had that mindset of, if I'm doing what everyone else is doing, I'm probably going to get just as good as everyone else, and I was not okay with that. So I focused on the skill, extra skill work here. I also focused on the extra physical development there, and that's basically a day in the life when I was in high school in the fall. So hopefully that gave you guys some context of what I was up to in high school. And yes, like very, very time consuming. But again, I did the work that most people were not willing to do. So that way, the next day I was able to do things that most players only wish they could do. And that's the basis of a lot of that sacrifice that we have to have in our game. We can't be expecting things to fall in our lap, because that will never come true. It's just really important to have that understanding, guys, though, of putting in that extra work, making sure that we have that ability to get that extra work done. Thanks, Coach. Specifically, any tips for training mental game? So mental game, this is the way that I like to describe it, and I'm going to try actually bringing in some text. Okay, we're going to bring in an emoji now. If I can, do I have emojis on my iPad? Okay, hand shake. There we go. Let's go. Ooh. Okay. Okay, can I make it bigger? Can I make it bigger? Size. Yeah. Okay. So, I love this, guys, by the way. I really do love this. I hope you guys find it enjoyable to be able to like learn in this way, the visual style of learning, because I think it's important, guys. Like, there's so many people out there that are just like putting up like a PDF file and call it a mentorship program or call it a course, and you buy it for $100 or $200, and you're in the same position 1 week later, 2 weeks later, 2 months later, 2 years later, and then all of a sudden high school baseball is over with and you wish you did something about it. So before I get into this question, I just want to read what Akwe said. What is your response? Freshman, sophomore coach telling pitcher, we will not let you try or practice to hit and field. Forcing, okay, this question's difficult. Forcing 14U to give up hitting because team. Okay, so I guess really quick, I don't like when coaches basically will say like, hey, you have to give up this or you have to give up that. I don't like that at all. But to get into the question, all right, Willie, any specific tips for mental game? So let's actually record this as well. So do you have any specific tips on training the mental game? So as you can see, we have the good old handshake right here. And this is where it's important to understand that we need to mix the mental with the physical, right? And ideally, if we are missing out on one or if we have the other, right, this is going to be hard for us to be able to maximize our true potential with our development. So for example, when my students do a simple sprinting program, it's not just going through the motions, right? If we're going through the motions, like we're probably just gonna get like 60% output. So what I really like to think about is like, we are right here, we're doing the work, this is the work, right? That is the training, right? And over here, let's just use a square for different shapes. This is the output. And ultimately, if we go through the motions, we're gonna get like 60% over here. When we don't want 60%, we want 100% because we want to get 100% better or 1% better every single day, right? So we need to think about these things as far as our development and especially our physical development. So I'm going to change up the color real quick because again, we need to combine the physical with the mental. So when we do this sprinting program, it's not just going through the motions. We need to incorporate competitions, right? And in these competitions, this is where we need to learn the ability to compete with ourselves, right? We need to understand at the end of the day, we might become, and this is maybe a a shocking statement. Maybe it's going to be clickbaity, but you or your son could become Shohei Ohtani. And I'm telling you that as an absolute fact, it could happen. Why can I say that? Because Shohei Ohtani is a real life human being. Yes, he puts on his pants the same way that we do. He breathes the same air. He drinks water just like us, right? So Shohei Ohtani, your son could be Shohei Ohtani one day. If your son becomes Shohei Ohtani, who is he truly competing against, right? Like, is he competing against the pitcher? Like, yes, of course, like without a doubt. Is he competing against any of his teammates? No, not really. Like, he's Shohei Ohtani. He's one of the best to ever do it. So we need to think about, if your son is actually Shohei Ohtani, what's he going to do? Like, is he just going to throw in the towel and be like, oh, I'm the best player in the world. I don't have to work out anymore. I am the best. I don't need training. I don't need to do this. I don't need to do that. No. Because Shohei Ohtani, the only person in front of Shohei Ohtani, I'm saying Shohei Ohtani a lot, but the only person in front of Shohei is himself. And the way that probably Shohei thinks about it is my 10.0 version of myself. There's areas of his game that, without a doubt, because I know how players think about their performance, they focus on the tiniest little things. So if your son becomes Shohei Ohtani, he's really competing against himself. And that's where we want to mesh that physical and mental by competing with ourselves with every competition, every movement, because that mindset will shift into our sprint work. It will shift into our ability to throw harder. It will focus on, if we're ever training a max exit velocity day, that's going to transition over there as well. And then ultimately we become problem solvers into our own abilities. So hopefully that answered your question. Because yeah, guys, like the mentality, it's how we're going about specific areas of our training, which is going to give us the best results possible. Question on what is your response on a freshman, sophomore coach telling a pitcher he will not let and try practice hitting? So yeah, I don't like that, because there's always going to be room for a two-way player. For those that don't know, two-way basically means pitching, could be a right-handed pitcher, and another position, right? Ideally, that position could be anywhere else on the field. So if let's say, like, okay, so I'm gonna actually take a step back, because if I'm a coach, the thing is, we want more pitchers, but we don't want to like completely exclude positions. And I think the only reason that this coach might be going about it this way, and by the way, like, coaches have sometimes alternative motives of like why they're doing certain things. Maybe they're just telling you, hey, we don't want you to play this position over here because we don't want to have to tell you like you're not going to play, right? Maybe that's the reason that they're saying that. That doesn't mean you can't develop right here, right? That's where I get frustrated with that, because if I always like to say in my college recruiting process, Raleigh right here, by the way, if I went to a University of Florida, if I went to possibly even like a UVA, if I went to Florida State, my freshman year, I was mostly known as a pitcher. Okay, so I was mostly known as a pitcher my freshman year of college, and I did not do well. But if the coaching staff at NC State did not allow me to give them a second chance, and ultimately they had to give me that second chance to be able to transition to a third baseman. My sophomore year, I transitioned from a pitcher to a third baseman. Not many people are able to do that at the higher levels and at the highest level of college baseball, at the D1 level. But the coaching staff believed in me, and they also believed in me as a two-way player. So basically, they gave me that opportunity to at least develop, right? That's all you can really ask for. So I don't like the basis of even where the question's coming from, that a coach out there is basically saying that, hey, you can't even develop for this. Like, yes, like that's where I think coaches sometimes just, I'm never going to come after a coach individually or specifically for anything, because coaches, I think most of them have really good hearts because they are trying to help the younger generation start on their shoulders, and that way their students can grow that much quicker. That's why I do it. But to kind of like demotivate players like that, I don't necessarily fully align with, because like that development area needs to always have a completely wide open door. It has to have a wide open door. As far as again, kind of like talking about outputs and talking about like the results of the development. Like, yes, you can take 1 million ground balls, right? And in those 1 million ground balls, you might get better, and you probably will get better, right? But are you guaranteed to actually play shortstop, right? These are the things that I wish the coach could just communicate with you a little bit better. If you're still in here, Akeaway 61. I wish like these college coaches could just, or high school coaches, sorry, could just communicate these things a little bit better, because I think if high school coaches could communicate them better, there'd be a lot less issues when we're talking about, playing time and, things of that nature. So hopefully that answers your question, guys. I'm going to be live here for another 15 minutes. We're going to be streaming every single day for 50 straight days. Today is day 7. We're streaming 11 a.m. Eastern time, and I see over on YouTube, Manny is back in action. Manny, by the way, my middle name is Manuel. So, Manny, we have kind of that in common with your name. I don't know if you're the player or a parent, but assuming let's do it. I don't think I have it on this one. All right, so assuming GPA 3.5 in school is a must, do you need to carry that, parent? Awesome. Do you need to carry that throughout all 4 years of high school, or is it one more specific than the other? So, yeah, so for GPA, I think it's important to understand like how college coaches really view it, right? College coaches really just want the GPA to be greater than 3, because this tells that like you're somewhat responsible in the coach's eyes, in the coach's perspective, that you can get the job done off of the field. You're not going to become a liability to the coach. When you step foot on a college campus, though, when you're in that baseball environment on that baseball team, grades and GPA, yes, they matter because you need to stay eligible. Outside of staying eligible, we don't really talk about grades much. We really don't talk about grades like at all, as long as you're staying eligible, right? So like we don't really care about team GPA unless you go to a Harvard or a Columbia or an MIT, right? I don't think MIT has baseball. Maybe they do. But these are the things that I think it's just really important to understand what college coaches view GPA and how they go about that, right? Because, and to answer your question, really, like, it's not necessarily one specific year that matters. I think what matters more is just like anything else, the consistency, right? So for example, if like freshman year, let's just go through a couple of examples. Freshman year, 2.1. Ooh, not good. Sophomore year, was able to get like a 3.6. Junior year, like 4.0. 4.0. Senior year, 3.7. Okay, cool. Like, I don't know what that average would be. So like, let's say that's 3.1. Like, okay, freshman year, he was a loser. He did something wrong. Like he just didn't go to class, whatever the case may be, and didn't really have his mind screwed on right, or his head screwed on right. But of course, like, he made that progress. And when sending transcripts, by the way, like, that is part of the process of getting recruited. You have to send transcripts. You have to send like your SAT scores. You have to send your GPA and things like that. But when you're sending in that process, they're going to see not only like year by year, but they're also going to get into a segment as well of like English and math and social studies, and science, right? And I think another area that I think is overlooked, and a lot of college coaches, or really a lot of people won't tell you, is they don't look at just what classes you're taking. They look at the level, because now English has, like, at the very highest, we had AP or ACE. ACE, I think it was. ACE? It was like the one through Cambridge, I think. I think it was spelled ACE, yeah. Anyway, so AP or ACE, pretty high level as far as just like the academic standard. Below that, you had honors. And then below that, you had just like regular. So that can be applied to all of them, right? So they not only look at GPA as just like a guiding force, but they also look at the level of classes. So like, for example, if you're taking APs all the way down throughout and your GPA is like a 3.1, I think that is more helpful than if you're taking regular classes and you just have a 4.0. So these are the things that, of course, like they'll be able to tell and read between the lines, guys, on if you actually are taking competitive classes. Because you never want to put yourself in the category of just like, you're just trying to get by and you're just doing the very bare minimum. Like that's not going to help you out at all. So I want to make sure that you understand, like when you're picking the classes, you do that with intent, right? I definitely did, because I wanted to do engineering at NC State. So you have to be very, very dedicated to taking competitive classes in high school. So that way they just have a little bit more of an understanding of like what kind of person you are, right? Are you a type of person that just wants to slide by, or are you a type of person that wants to be challenged, right? So yeah. Do you recommend to visit out of state colleges and reach out to coaches that are interest? Also look at what the school has to offer towards a major. So as far as the offer, or what they offer. So as far as majors and what they offer, what offers, that's where it's important to just like do the research online. You don't have to go in person to see what majors they offer, right? So don't go to a place to like ask them if they have an engineering program. Do that research beforehand. Recommend visiting out-of-state colleges. So like, yes, I think it's important to know what else is out there in the recruiting process. I will say, like, it really depends on the person. And that's where everything that we do inside the academy is personalized, right? We want to make sure that each individual person has an understanding of like, are they more of a homebody where they want to be close to their mom and dad? For some of my students, they're like, no, I need to be like at least an hour or two away from my parents because they need to do my laundry or whatever the case may be. They need to say hi every single weekend, right? There's some people that are going to be like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. I would definitely say like it's okay to break out of your shell in some capacity. But I think it's really important to understand what else is out there. Because, for example, for me, I mostly grew up in Sarasota, Florida, beach town, pretty hot and humid weather, great baseball area, but also like very flat. If anyone's been to Florida before, you know it's extremely flat. If you take like 3 steps up, you can see the other side of the state, basically. But yeah, the elevation, it's nothing crazy, right? So when we're thinking about that, we're thinking about how hot and humid Florida was growing up. I hated how much I had to squint all the time. That's why I always wear sunglasses, by the way, when I was playing, especially day games, because I hated squinting. I just kind of knew I wanted to get out of Florida. I was like, I don't really like Sarasota. It was a little bit, a decade ago. It was more of like a retirement village. A lot of old people lived there. Not a lot of fun things to do. Not a lot of great places to eat. It is getting better. There's a lot of developing, homes and communities over there. But anyway, I just knew I wanted to get out of the state of Florida. Also, like, there's a couple of things that I learned through my college recruiting process as well, because my high school coach was a little bit older. He was more of like a grandpa, right? He was probably about 70 years old school type of coaching. And that's something that I also knew. I want someone a little bit younger as far as a college coach, because I want someone a little bit more relatable. And this is something that I think a lot of you guys sometimes will deal with, is sometimes like a hitting coach that's really seasoned. Maybe he's 60 years old. Maybe he has so many clientele, but maybe he just doesn't have that cool factor. He doesn't know what 6'7" is, right? He's definitely an unk, if not, he's a senior citizen, right? Maybe I'm closer to unk. I'm almost 30, guys. But no, like I knew I didn't want an old school style of coach. So like when my high school coach basically said, hey, you should talk to the Florida State coaches about playing there, I knew that Mike Martin was there, and Mike Martin was older than my high school coach. They of course had a great connection. My high school head coach for baseball, was a fan of Florida State and kind of wanted me to go to Florida State, but like I didn't want to go to Florida State. I didn't want to play for Mike Martin, who had no joke, he had a hard time going out to the mound to make a pitching change, right? I'll never forget it. And he had a couple of knee surgeries and stuff like that. I just knew I didn't want to play for an older coach. I wanted someone a little bit younger. So Elliot Ava at NC State, like, I'll never forget, he was a little bit older, but like not as old as Mike Martin. He was probably in his 60s, but he would still work out with the guys. He would work out with the team. He would be doing bench press with 60s. He would literally just walk into the gym, no warm up whatsoever, get like 60s and just start benching. I'm like, I love this guy. This is awesome. It fires me up knowing that he is part of the team. And that inclusiveness of we're all in this together, we're all pulling in the same direction, that is something that is very valuable. in the college recruiting process. So when going back to the question, Janice, as far as like recommend visiting out-of-state colleges, like yes, without a doubt, because when I was in that recruiting process, I didn't know Raleigh, North Carolina. I didn't know that there were hills. I didn't know that, you know, it was a beautiful city. I didn't know the Triangle area. I didn't know that UNC was 15 or 20 minutes away. I didn't know that Duke was, 20 minutes away. I didn't know that like Wake Forest was like an hour away. I didn't know any of these things, right? So in that process of going and visiting different schools, it is important, without a doubt. Also going to camps and stuff like that can be important as well. But like the thing is, I went to a visit to NC State with the coaches before I went to any type of camp. And the reason that I was able to do that is because they knew me, they watched me play, and I went through the college recruiting process in a very structured manner. So if that's something that you guys are interested in, you can always click the link in my bio to learn a little bit more about the triple play and how we can implement, a recruiting strategy for you or your son. But no, to again kind of go back to your question, you without a doubt have to see what else is out there. If you're a California person, I'm just gonna say it. West Coast baseball, college baseball. West Coast college baseball, not the same as ACC and SEC baseball. ACC and SEC are, by the way, like, Southeastern Conference and then the Atlantic Coast Conference. NC State, Florida State, Virginia, UNC, Duke, Wake Forest, Mississippi State, Texas A&M, LSU, like all these East and Southeast schools, baseball is booming. They love their baseball. I don't know how many people have gone to like a Stanford game. Not saying that Stanford's not a good baseball program, or like UCLA, or like UC Santa Barbara. Like, it's just a different style of baseball. Cal State Fullerton, like, it's not as popular. Not saying that people don't care about it, but like, it would have just felt dead to me. Like, I love that UNC and Duke were super close to NC State, and there was a rivalry, and people actually really cared about our games, and they would come out to the games and pack the stadium, and we would have sellout crowds when we played against Clemson. Like, those are the things that I loved, and of course I did the research to know that that was something to be expected. But yeah, guys, like, if you need to see what else is out there to be able to make decisions in the college recruiting process. But of course, that's just like part of the desire. The desire is the easy part. I want to play college baseball. You and all the other 499,999 people out of the 500,000 high school baseball players. So having that desire is always important. As far as how to implement a strategy to be able to communicate with these college coaches, that's the difficult part. That's where there's nuances. You want to make sure that you sound like a baseball player. These are all things that I help out with, guys. So if you guys, again, are interested in working one-on-one with me inside my remote training program, you can always click the link in my bio, watch that full video to get a better understanding of like who I am and what I do. But what I'm going to go ahead and do is actually probably just wrap things up, guys, because we're approaching the top of the hour. And tomorrow, I will see you guys back at 11 a.m. Eastern time. We're going to be streaming every single day, excluding Sundays. We're going to hope that the weather's not getting anything crazy here in North Carolina. There's going to be a winter storm coming through. Hopefully we'll see some snow for the first time here in North Carolina in a long time. But let's get into, and then we talked about location. Let's see what else. Cool, let's do a quick little recap, and we'll go from there. Okay, let's start at... Sometimes the scrolling feature doesn't work. I'm gonna go ahead and actually close out of the app to see if that helps. I guess I can't close out of the app. Okay, anyway. I want to talk about that pool because that, come on, let me slide. I don't know if you guys can see, I'm trying to slide. Okay, there we go. Come on. We'll start there, actually, if it allows me. Okay, whatever, we'll start here. Okay. All right, quick recap of day 7, streaming every single day for 50 straight days, including Sundays at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So first question was really talking about which platform we want to be posting on. So in this example, this is where ideally we don't want to be posting on a platform that isn't going to give us the best results as far as like, you know, in this swimming pool at the very top, it's a smaller swimming pool. We want to be, you know, posting in that big swimming pool. But the area of like these large databases like NCSA, this is an area that we don't want to fall for their trap, because at the end of the day, that NCSA might not necessarily include the coaches that are actually interested or you have the possibility of playing at. One thing that we also talked about a lot about social media and how to limit screen time. So an interesting area that we talked about, turning black and white mode on the filters of your phone. It's very frustrating to use your phone and also limits your usage. I also like to eliminate all notifications. These are some advices that I would give. And then as far as turning focus on or do not disturb, I think it's super helpful because it helps me basically forget that I have a phone. We also talked about how a lot of people fall into the trap that there's one way to do things. There's one route to play college or professional baseball, right? And I think a lot of people fall into this smaller trap and don't realize that there's other paths to pro baseball or college baseball. There's this path over here, and of course they have the ugly pathway up there as well. So that's another thing that we covered today. Someone asked me what my high school routine really looked like. So typical class right there. Let me actually just draw on this. Typical class right here, we would have a team lift right here. I would do extra skill work right there. Once I got home, I would typically like to do my sprint work 15-20 minutes a day, being competitive with myself. I'd get any homework or studying in as quickly as possible, eat dinner, and then I would actually do a second gym session to really focus on that physical development. And that's that extra work that I was able to do to really separate myself and do things that others only could wish that they wanted to do. Someone also talked about basically the physical and the mental, and I think it is really important to understand that these two are in combination on how we do the physical work. So without one, really our output is going to look a little bit different. And that's something that I explained right here, I believe. Let me see. Yeah, so, okay. Another area is, you know, someone asked me a question about how parents, or how coaches won't allow them to really develop over here as a position player, and because they need them more as a pitcher. I didn't like that. So always keep the door, if a coach is listening to this right now, always keep the door for development open, especially at a younger age. We talked about grades and how really they are important to some extent, and really it's a combination of your grades throughout high school that matters the most, and making sure that you can showcase that consistency. And then last but not least, what we talked about is like in the recruiting process, should we be looking at what they offer as far as which major? Should we talk about looking at other locations? Yes, without a doubt, we do want to see what else is out there, so that way we can find a fit, a perfect fit, rather than landing a college scholarship, we're landing the right college scholarship. Awesome, guys. Well, I'm going to wrap things up. That was the recap for today's live. We're a couple minutes over, but I appreciate you guys joining in. Thank you for your attendance, and also just being very, very, you know, asking those questions. Obviously, very, very important. But yeah, join me in tomorrow, and we will jump right back into it. Take care, guys.
Welcome Evan Mendoza to the program.
Cardinals third baseman Evan Mendoza.
Giving it a look, finds the railing and he tumbles over, but he made the catch. Unbelievable, Evan Mendoza.
Gran jugada en Evan Mendoza, dos joyas defensivas.
Evan Mendoza makes a great
Rounded up the middle is Mendoza, throws on the shortstop. Mendoza field spins, throws.
Mendoza throw to first in time. Wow, what a play by Evan Mendoza. Short. Mendoza to second for one. Oh my word, you've got to be kidding.
Evan Mendoza. For Mendoza lifts one to left. An inning.
Mendoza, that one's sailing back there, and it's gone.
Now, those are some of the plays.